Imagine a world where honor and adventure were the ultimate goals, where knights in shining armor sought glory and wealth, and where the lines between religion and politics were often blurred. This was the world of the 14th century, a time of grandeur and turmoil, where the actions of a few could alter the course of history. In this world, one man stood out, Enguerrand de Coucy, a knight whose life was a tapestry of battles, diplomacy, and the complex web of medieval politics. In the year 1390, the court of King Charles VI of France was abuzz with a proposal that seemed to promise both glory and riches. The ambassadors from Genoa, a powerful maritime republic, had arrived with a grand scheme. They painted a vivid picture of a holy war against the infidels, the Muslims who, they claimed, threatened not only Asia and Africa, but also Europe itself. According to the ambassadors, the name of France was feared as far as India, and the French knights were the greatest warriors among Christians. If France were to join forces with Genoa, the ambassadors argued, the campaign would be swift and the glory eternal. The proposal was not just a call to arms, but a carefully crafted plan by Antonietto Adorno, the Doge of Genoa. Adorno was a shrewd politician, and he had his own reasons for proposing this crusade. His rule in Genoa was under threat from a growing opposition, and he hoped that by supporting a French campaign, he could strengthen his position and secure a powerful ally. The idea of a crusade was a clever way to rally support, as it appealed to the religious and martial spirit of the French nobility. While the knights were enthusiastic about the prospect of battle and the chance to earn honor, the king's ministers were more cautious. They were wary of sending French forces out of the country, especially without a lasting peace with England. The question of who would lead the campaign also raised concerns, as it was bound to stir up rivalries among the nobles. Despite the excitement, the Genoese ambassadors left without a firm commitment from the French court. Shortly after this, Coucy found himself in Toulouse, a city known for its rich history and strategic importance. He joined the royal party in a hunting expedition that almost ended in disaster. As night fell, the hunters found themselves lost in a dense forest, their path obscured by the darkness. The situation was dire, and it seemed as if they might never find their way out. In a moment of desperation, King Charles vowed that if they were saved, he would donate the value of his horse to the chapel of Notre Dame de Bonne Espérance in Toulouse. Miraculously, a light broke through the sky, revealing a path. The next day, the king kept his promise, and the event was later commemorated with a fresco in the cloister of the Carmes in Toulouse. This fresco, though it did not show Coucy's face, is the only known contemporary representation of the famous knight. It depicts him among 7 nobles, each identified by their coat of arms. Despite the lack of a clear portrait, the fresco provides a glimpse into the life and times of Enguerrand de Coucy. Coucy's next adventure took him to Spain, a country on the brink of turmoil. The Iberian Peninsula was still reeling from the effects of the long civil wars between Pedro the Cruel and his half-brother Enrique. These conflicts had left a trail of destruction, and social tensions were high. The Jews, who had played a significant role in the region's economy and politics, were particularly vulnerable. They had been favored by Pedro the Cruel, but his defeat and the victory of Enrique had not improved their situation. In 1391, a wave of violence erupted against the Jewish community, leading to murders, property seizures, and forced conversions. This violence soon spilled over into a broader insurrection against the ruling class, culminating in 4 days of terror in Barcelona. Coucy's mission to Spain was to negotiate a marriage between Yolande, the daughter of the King and Queen of Aragon, and Louis II of Anjou. This marriage was part of a larger political strategy to gain an ally in the Angevin quest for the crown of Naples. The Duchess d'Anjou, who was a close friend and supporter of Coucy, had already lobbied for his involvement in the negotiations. Coucy's connections to the royal families of Aragon and Anjou made him the ideal choice for this delicate mission. In January 1390, Coucy found himself back in Toulouse and then in Avignon, where he testified at hearings for the canonization of Pierre de Luxembourg. Pierre was a young noble who had died at the age of 17, but his life of piety and miracles had already earned him a reputation for sainthood. The nomination was a strategic move by the French Pope, Clement VII, to enhance his legitimacy in the eyes of the Church and the people. Pierre's life was marked by extraordinary devotion. He had taken a vow of chastity at the age of 6, and was known for his strict ascetic practices, including fasting and self-flagellation. Despite his youth, he was appointed to high ecclesiastical positions, including that of Bishop of Metz at 15 and Cardinal at 16. His reputation for miraculous cures, including the healing of the Duchess de Bourbon and the resurrection of a steward, added to his mystique. Coucy, who had known Pierre since childhood, testified to his piety and the miracles he had witnessed. However, the process of canonization was a lengthy and complex one, and despite the testimony of 72 witnesses, it ultimately lapsed. Pierre de Luxembourg was beatified in 1527, but his canonization was never completed. After the hearings in Avignon, Coucy returned to Paris with the king and court. On the way, they stopped in Dijon, the capital of the Duchy of Burgundy, where the Duke, known for his lavish displays of wealth and power, had prepared a grand festival. The event was a showcase of medieval extravagance, with elaborate banquets, tournaments, and gifts. The Duke ordered 320 new lances for the competitors, and the towns along the route received funds for cleaning and decorating. Dijon itself, with its narrow, twisting streets and ornate architecture, was transformed for the occasion. The highlight of the festival was a tournament, where Coucy, even at the age of 50, emerged as one of the top competitors. He was rewarded with a pearl and sapphire clasp from the Duchess, a symbol of his skill and valor. The event concluded with a farewell exchange of gifts, and the ladies and damsels sang and danced in honor of the king, the Duc de Touraine, the Duc de Bourbon, and Coucy. Despite the grandeur of the festival, the political tensions of the time were never far away. The king's promise to reunite the church was put aside in favor of the more immediate and exciting prospect of a crusade against the kingdom of Barbary. This adventure, proposed by Genoa, offered a chance for glory and the privilegium crucis, a privilege that allowed participants to delay their debts and avoid lawsuits. The council, however, imposed limits on the number of knights who could leave the country and required them to equip themselves at their own expense. The command of the expedition was a source of contention. Louis d'Orléans, who was eager to assert his influence, wanted to lead the campaign. His uncle, the Duke of Burgundy, opposed this, citing Louis' youth and inexperience. The Duc de Bourbon, who was inspired by the example of St. Louis, was ultimately chosen as the leader, with Coucy as his second in command. Before embarking on the crusade, Coucy founded a church and monastery, a common practice among nobles who sought to secure their soul's salvation. The Celestin order, known for its extreme asceticism, was his choice. This decision might seem paradoxical, given the worldly and often violent life of a knight. However, it reflected a deep-seated spiritual need and a desire for penitence in a world where the duality of faith and action was a constant struggle. Enguerrand de Coucy's life was a testament to the complexities of the 14th century. He was a knight who sought glory and honor, a diplomat who navigated the treacherous waters of politics, and a man of faith who sought to reconcile his actions with his beliefs. His legacy is a reminder of a time when the world was both larger and smaller, where the actions of a few could shape the destiny of nations.